Welcome to another episode of Stick Shift Stories. In today's episode, we're going to be taking a deep look at the second generation Chevrolet Chevelle built from 1968 through 1972, with a strong emphasis on the SS model. Stay tuned because this is going to be a super interesting episode. The Chevelle line was first introduced as a 1964 model in the midsize intermediate segment. It was introduced by General Motors' Chevrolet division to compete in an automotive market that was adjusting to differing tastes. While demand for full-size vehicles was still strong, the early to middle 60s saw demand increase for small and mid-size vehicles. In fact, GM had introduced the rear-engine, air-cooled Corvair and the Chevy 2 Nova to compete with the likes of the AMC Rambler and the Ford Falcon. When Ford introduced the midsize Fairlane in 1962, General Motors responded by introducing the Chevelle. Built on the A-body platform, the Chevelle was the only all-new vehicle introduced for the 1964 model year. It sported a 115-inch wheelbase, which allowed it to slot nicely in between the smaller Chevy 2 and the full-size models from Chevrolet. It was available as a coupe, convertible, sedan, and station wagon. Throughout the first generation's run, from 1964 to 1967, 6-cylinder and 8-cylinder power plants were available. The A-body Chevelle used a body-on-frame design with a 4-link rear suspension. The SS package was available on the upscale Malibu coupe and convertible models. The package added special emblems and brightwork, 14-inch wheel covers, a 4-gauge cluster, and a floor console for models with a 4-speed manual or 2-speed automatic. Engines for the SS consisted of a 283, 327, or 396 cubic inch V8, with the highest output 396 engine being rated at 375 horsepower. Redesigned for the 1968 model year, the Chevelle sported brand new styling that incorporated a long hood and short deck with a rakish profile. Some distinguishing features were the rounded line running through the profile of the vehicle, the gorgeous tapered front fenders, and the sleek rear end with slim taillights. These details, along with the fastback-like profile and unique kickup rear quarter panel, made the Chevelle coupe look powerful, while the big rear quarter panel screamed that it was a rear-wheel drive machine. The lineup included expansive jewel-like grilles and tread width that was 1 inch wider on all 4 corners. There were lots of body styles on offer: a coupe or convertible, station wagon or sedan, or you could even get a pickup with the El Camino, which was based on the Chevelle platform. With the redesign, the coupes and convertibles rode on a 112-inch wheelbase, while the sedan and station wagon utilized a larger 116-inch wheelbase. There were several models on offer, with the Chevelle coupes and sedans offering the 300, 300 Deluxe, Malibu, and Concours models. Enthusiasts had the option of specifying the coveted SS 396 package, which was available on the coupe, convertible, or El Camino for 1968. The base price of a 68 SS 396 was $2,875. So you might be wondering, how would you identify a true SS 396 today? For the 1968 models, you'll need to know several things. First, the Fisher body style numbers must include 13837, 13867, and 13880, along with the VIN numbers beginning with 13837, 13867, and 13880. These will indicate a true SS. Note that the VIN number will only indicate the base engine, a turbojet 396 cubic inch Mark IV V8 sporting 325 horsepower, and not any of the optional uprated engines available. For $105 more, a buyer could spec the L34 engine, which made 350 horsepower. And returning for the first time since 1966, the L78 engine cost an additional $237 and included solid lifters, big port heads, a 800 CFM Holley carburetor, and a low-rise aluminum manifold. SS396 models came with F70/14 red stripe white oval tires, a twin-domed hood with faux vents, SS396 emblems on the front grille and rear cove, fender-mounted side marker lights with engine designation, blacked-out lower rocker panels below the lower beltline trim, a 12-bolt open rear end, front bench seat, speedometer and fuel gauge, along with a 3-speed heavy-duty transmission. There were a lot of options. These included posi traction, bucket seats, gauges, a 4-speed manual transmission, an automatic transmission, air conditioning, and some rare options as well, like the fender-mounted light monitor system, which would let you know if any of your light bulbs were burnt out by using fiber optic cables. A wide variety of colors and interior finishes were available, with SS396 interiors being all vinyl. Additionally, some really great colors were on offer for the exterior, and they used magic mirror finishes. My personal favorite is the Matador red finish. There were minor stylistic changes for 1969. The front grille now sported a line running through the middle of it. The turn signal lights were positioned in a revised slotted front bumper. The taillights took up more real estate and were housed in a vertical stack. The lower body panels were no longer black on SS396 models. Smaller side marker lights were used, and the front vent windows on coupes and convertibles were phased out with the introduction of the Astro ventilation system. Actually, there was no SS396 model in 1969. Instead, it was now part of a $347 option code, RPO Z25. The Z25 package was also now available on lower trim models like the V8 300 Deluxe Series 2-door coupe and 2-door sport coupe. This was the only year that allowed you to spec SS options in a model other than the V8 Malibu, convertible, or El Camino. Since the SS396 was no longer a model line, but rather an option, you are no longer able to identify a real SS396 by using the Fisher body style or VIN number. Instead, now you need a paper trail, a build sheet listing the specifications of the car, a chassis broadcast copy sheet, protecto plate, or a factory stamped engine that partially matches the car's VIN number is needed to clearly and confidently identify a real RPO Z25 car. Note that paint codes 72 and 76 for Hugger Orange or Daytona Yellow were paint options only available with the Z25 SS396 option. However, customers could have been able to special order these colors, so you should not use them to identify if the vehicle you're looking at is a genuine SS396 equipped Chevelle. Engines for the Chevelle lineup mostly stayed the same, except the 327 was dropped in favor of the 350, which now was offered in two different varieties, one that made 255 horsepower and one that made 300 horsepower. The SS engine lineup was essentially identical to that offered in 1968. The turbojet 396 cubic inch engines were all equipped with chrome valve covers, with the higher output 350 horsepower and 375 horsepower engines sporting open element air filters on manual transmission equipped cars. The SS396 equipped models came with power-assisted front disc brakes, a floor-mounted 3-speed transmission, a dual exhaust system, black grille and rear panel, wheel arch moldings, special hood ornamentation, and suspension, 14x7 sport wheels, and white lettered black wall tires. There were lots of changes for the 1970 model year. The exterior, interior, and engine options all received significant changes. Styling was all new and featured a narrow center with flared fenders, giving the Chevelle a very substantial look. The headlight panel was now surrounded with body color trim. The front grille had two sections with an emblem in the middle, and the stylized front bumper housed the turn signal lights. The taillights in the rear were now housed in the rear bumper. Still in option, the Malibu Sport Coupe, Convertible, and El Camino were available with two different SS option codes. RPO Z25 included the 402 cubic inch engine, but was referred to as the SS396 since GM still had a lot of clout with the 396 name designation. And the RPO Z15 option that included the LS5 454 cubic inch V8 engine rated at 360 horsepower. Note that there was also an LS6 engine available with high compression and solid lifters that produced a hefty 450 horsepower. The SS option included wide oval tires on sport wheels, SS emblems, a sport suspension, black accented grille, a rear bumper insert, and power dome hood. Speaking of the hood, RPO code ZL2 included the cowl induction hood, the D88 hood and deck stripes, as well as the hood lock pins. These pins were only available with the ZL2 option, and the D88 deck and hood stripes could be omitted if so desired. The non-cowl induction hood did not come with any hood pin standard or optional, but the D88 deck and hood stripes were available as an option. The dashboard was all new for 1970 and featured a more modern design with some soft touch materials. And instead of using the regular Chevelle's sweep speedometer, the SS models got a unique dashboard cluster that included circular gauges for pertinent information. There was also optional gauge packages, bucket seats, consoles, and other things available by request. For the 1971 model, Chevrolet retained the 1970 body structure but featured new power beam single unit headlights, a wider single bar front grille, signal and marker lights integrated next to the headlights, revised front and rear bumpers, and new taillight design. Unfortunately, the SS package for 1971 was more of a dress-up package than a high-performance package. Due to rising costs and higher insurance rates, Chevrolet changed the 1970s Z25 and Z15 packages to now only include a single Z15 SS equipment package. The L34 396 and the LS6 454 engines were no longer available. You could now order the Z15 package with any optional V8 engine, which included the 350 with the 2-barrel or 4-barrel carb, as well as the 400 4-barrel and finally the 4-barrel 454 engine. Unlike the earlier years, the 12-bolt rear end was not standard anymore. The L65 350 V8 with a 2-barrel carb came with a 10-bolt rear end unless the trailering option was selected, which included a 12-bolt rear end. SS equipment included a special domed hood with locking pins, a sport mirror, black accented grille, power disc front and rear drum brakes, sport wheels, F60/15 tires, and special chassis features. Note that even though the locking pins are now standard on the SS models, some SS equipped models did not come with locking pins from the factory. There was also a heavy Chevy model introduced that utilized a base Chevelle Sport Coupe but was available with any V8 engine except for the 454 cubic inch V8. The valve covers on these engines were no longer chromed, and they were now painted orange to match the rest of the engine on SS equipped vehicles. No major interior or exterior changes are noticed for the 1972 models other than new signal indicator lights and a 2-bar front grille. The SS package was still available with any optional V8 engine. Engine choices for the SS equipment package were unchanged from the 1971 model and included the L65, L48, LS3, and LS5 engines. The ZL2 cowl induction hood was still available, but Chevrolet didn't market it and sales of the option dropped heavily when compared to the 1970 and 1971 models. The wheels, badges, and options remained virtually the same as the 1971 model year. Following the removal of brightwork in the engine bay, the air cleaners no longer indicated engine size through the use of decals. One change on the interior was the addition of a seatbelt warning lamp circled in red. Do you have trouble identifying a 1968 through 1972 Chevelle SS? If so, I've made this complete spotter's guide for you that has every front end and every rear end from 1968 through 1972 so that you can study these and make sure you know the exact year whenever you're in front of one of these vehicles. And on a side note, do you own or have you owned one of these Chevelles? If so, leave me a comment and let me know what you liked about it or if you've had any common problems with them. After all of this information, what's my verdict on the 1968 through 1972 Chevelle, especially the SS models? Well, I give them a solid 9 out of 10 burnouts. My favorite is the 1968 model with the big 396 engine. Thanks so much for watching. Please hit that like and subscribe button, and we'll see you for the next video.